Hello, welcome to Rubrics Cube Part 2. In the previous Rubrics Cube, last Thursday, we discussed the makings of the Rubrics Cube and the rubric that we use and have fallen in love with, right? So we have the criteria at the top here, and that's the level of understanding someone has shown, and then we have the criteria down the left side that shows, that would be right here, and that shows what context that we're talking about, and then within each level it kind of goes down in what they've been able to show. So, of course, exemplary is going to show everything, right? Mastery will show a little less, and developing will show less, beginning will show less, no evidence will show even less. And how we describe what they've shown are through these verbs. So, exemplary identifies and demonstrates, and so those match with the outcome of the course. If we're saying that we want them to be able to demonstrate, then in the rubric it would also say demonstrate. You wouldn't say that they're exemplary because they identify when the verb that's used in the outcome is validate or something at a higher level in the Bloom's taxonomy. So the next thing is over here we would do the points, and then we go to the next one. As you see, it goes lower and lower in the details that they've shown. So I like to begin with creating rubrics in a Word document and then go to the assignment for this. So this is discussion forum number 1 in Hamlet in the Sandbox English 252, created by Dr. Jerry Jacobs. And so you could get to rubrics by clicking on rubrics here in the course and then selecting which rubric you would like to use, or you can create a new rubric here the same way, and then you would link that to the assignment that you're using, right? Or you could go to the course and you could find discussion 1 here in the module view. And then in discussions, you would find the rubric here by adding rubric. And then you would say create rubric. And then the rubric name. So this one, we're going to call it discussion forum 1 Hamlet. And we would put it in that section. And this is a scale level going from high to low. High to low means from the highest to the lowest. Is it scored or unscored? Yes, we're going to use scored. We're not going to post to the Learning Mastery Gradebook, so make sure that is checked. And then you could say create from outcome. If you have the outcome flowing through the IT staff, creating the internal outcome on the global level of Canvas, which that is part of the workflow that we are building, but at this moment we are going to simply have it in Canvas in the course level. So you click create new criterion. The criterion's name is this right here, the content and analysis of the initial post for this discussion. So I'm just going to copy that here. I'm going to paste the criterion name there. You could put a criterion description, which will also show in the rubric when the student's going to use it. So exceeds is not the word that Jerry uses, so we're going to change that exceeds to exemplary. And then the next one is mastery. Yes. Near, we're going to change that to developing because that's the word Jerry uses. Just copy right over that, paste right over that, and then beginning is the word she uses here instead of below, so change that. Paste, no evidence, she keeps the no evidence part, and then the rating description. So as we mentioned, having the rating description is great because then it takes the guesswork out of understanding for the students. The students are able to see, if I only do this much, I'm going to get this many points. If I show no meaningful response, I'm going to get 0 points. So that way they can, go through, and it communicates very well what the expectations are and how they are being assessed. So you just copy and paste these into here for each of them. And then we're going to save this criterion. So since we changed this here, I'm actually going to just duplicate. That way I can keep the same items or the same rating name. And then I'm going to go down to the next one. And this criterion is peer responses and engagement. And now there's quite a few of these, but I'm going to only give the example of 2 of them so we can take a look at them and you don't have to sit and watch me do all of them, right? So that's the second one. That's the third one. Developing. No peer response submitted. All right. So now it's in there, and since it says unscored, it did not ask me about the points. So I'm going to put that I do want it scored. And this, I'm going to click use this rubric for assignment grading. That way it can work all the way over to watermark, just as in step 3, where you would choose to use a rubric or choose to use an activity. So where our workflow is working towards using rubrics for the assessment and for the student outcome that is documented in watermark. So I'm going to, right now the default was 4 points and 4 points. I'm going to change that. So since I decided up here it's going to be 30 points, well, Jerry did, but if it were my course it would be me. And so that's 30 points. And then of course this goes down depending on the weight that you want to give this. So since it's exemplary and this one's mastery, I'm going to want this to be more like 27. I really don't like a fraction of points with decimals, so I try to make sure that they are full numbers. And then that last one, I'm going to leave 0. That way, if there's no meaningful response, they get a 0 for it. So that's that criterion, and the second criterion that I have is 25 points. So I'm going to change that to be 25. I'm going to change this to be 22. And then 19, 15. And of course, I didn't just guess at the numbers. Jerry will take a look at this again with me, and we'll talk about how to divide those numbers depending on her rubric and her syllabus. So then I say create the syllabus. So then it says leaving this assignment points at 100, so it does the math for you. I'm going to say leave it different because this is not the final thing at the moment. So this will be discussion forum, details, preview rubric, and this is what it's going to look like for the course. So this is the content, and then to view the rubric, you would click here. It was just there. Of course it stops. Open SpeedGrader, and it does have the rubric right here. So then when you go to use the rubric, you would simply use the rubric to grade. So easily we have that this would be 27 points. So as I was mentioning, that you have to, if you say in Watermark that you do have a rubric, you will have to use the rubric for grading, or else just choose activity. So here I look at the submission, then I click which one they've achieved, and then it puts the grading that's right here on it, and then you hit submit assessment, and that's the grade. Up here it equals to 46. So there we go, and that is how you do or create a rubric in discussion. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to show a rubric in an assignment. It's a little different on where you find the add rubric button, but everything else is the same. So I'm going to pick an assignment. Here, and you would click right here down at the bottom, since this already has a rubric added to it. It says preview rubric, but it would, if you didn't have a rubric, you would click here, the button would say add rubric. And so for an assignment, same thing. It has these points already adding up on the side, and that will transfer over to Watermark very easily. So if you have any questions about rubrics, please reach out, and it's just that easy. Writing it is a little trickier than actually adding it to Canvas. Take care.